I didn't write anything down like Kyle did. I have three kind of old ones that I'm just bringing back up. So my first pitch is a documentary um, called "In the Blink of an Eye." This is a Walter Murch book. Walter Murch, famously, I think, was the editor for Francis Ford Coppola, however you say it, a few of his movies. In the Blink of an Eye is a really awesome book. He has it's a pretty short read. You can like read it in a sitting. Um, but he has some very interesting viewpoints on psychology and how it plays into movie editing and and honestly it's like kind of above my head. I haven't read it in a while, so I don't want to butcher like his ideas, but sort of the basic idea is if you follow along with an audience, you'll find that people, including the actors that are actually in the thing that you're editing, will tend to blink when there should be a cut. Like there's a natural, and he's like, and if you have like a perfectly edited movie, you could probably sit at the front of the movie theater and watch people blink together. So like it's kind of very cool ideas, but I just think that Walter Murch he's a very influential editor over a huge period of time. He has Oscars. He has, like he's influenced a lot of people in post-production and in production. I think he may have directed one or two movies, but kind of stayed as an editor. I'm not sure how old he is, and I'm not sure if he's retired, but I thought, there's that movie that just came out about sound mixing, the documentary. I didn't watch it, so I don't know like what the documentary structure is, but I feel like the main idea, just letting Walter Murch kind of give his In the Blink of an Eye in movie form would be the first version of it, which I it's not for everybody, but I think it would just be a really, really cool thing that history would be able to look back on as one of the great editors, who's still with us today. So that would be the baseline idea, is just getting Walter Murch to sit down and give us the whole, like tell us the book kind of. The other idea is there's a movie called Tales from the Script, and it's incredibly simple, doesn't really have structure, but it's just a bunch of screenwriters talking about movies and talking about screenwriting. Again, it's not like mind-blowing documentary like story or anything, but if as a person who's interested in it, it's awesome.
So you're going like the Dave Grohl, where he's going with music documentaries with film.
Exactly. So that's a pitch that literally only works if you get it to Walter Murch, and I think I'd want to build out a little more of a structure. The way that I would see it, if it were to have sort of a beginning, middle, and end, would be best case scenario, Walter Murch is actually currently editing a film, and you could follow the process, which I actually think there may be archival footage of him doing that for Cold Mountain, maybe. Like I think there is a lot of behind the scenes of some of the other movies he's made. So, you could possibly do that with archival. Like the beginning is the start of him working on a movie. The middle, and in between that, you talk to basically just editors who have, worked from the time where you stood up on a moviola to the time now where you get digital, files sent to you, and you can just, edit on your laptop. So that's kind of it. It's just basically for editors, about editors.
There is a movie that I forget what it's called, but it kind of shows you all the movies and how iconic sets and how they were changed. And this movie was a sci-fi, and see the pillars here, it's the same house as this one, and they changed
that's cool.
it. And they have like, this is the beach scene, it's the same beach in this movie, and it's like all sets and how they changed them to look like different ones. Came out about 7 years ago.
Let's find that, because I'd love to watch that.
There's probably that, like, here's this main street in like Culver City or whatever that like lots of people use for like main streets and shit, which is probably pretty cool, because like how many sets are in the same like different shit, and how you can just change it a little bit. No one fucking cares.
I can't remember what the movie that just came out.
Eraser.
I think it's Making Waves, The Art of Cinematic Sound. I didn't watch it, but the trailer got me all hype. So I do need to watch that, but I feel like whatever the structure of Making Waves is, it would be kind of similar, except I really do feel like this is a movie that is carried by Walter Murch. So it's really, I think you could make a movie that's literally just Walter Murch talking about editing, and it would be interesting to a whole lot of people. That's the whole pitch. I'd like to make that one into.
I remember you read this book a long time ago.
Yeah, I've read it a few times now. Just like pick it up randomly and just like read a chapter or two, and it's like honestly, some of the stuff that he like his little tricks they're interesting because times have changed. But for example, he was always editing for the movie theater, so he used to cut out like paper dolls to a scale that would make sense to the screen that he was editing on, and he would put them in front, so he would constantly remind himself the scale of the screen to what the audience was looking at, because that would affect the length of time that you'd want between a cut.
That's fascinating.
Like honestly, like some of the stuff he did, I'm like, that's, you wouldn't think. And nowadays maybe things have changed because you're mostly editing to like Netflix or something like that.
Of course.
But just those, I think there's a lot of insight, and from everything I've read and heard, he's just a very interesting and literate and smart man. So
love it.
That's that one. What was my next one? I'm just taking old ones. Okay. So here's another pitch that we talked about a long time ago, and I kind of changed it on the way over here today. So terrible name. It was called The Bottom.
The Bottom.
The Bottom.
'Cause I also think it could be called like The Trench or something, but the basic idea originally was it's like gravity underwater. So the baseline idea is this oceanographer. There is this woman, I can't remember her name, but she's one of the most world famous oceanographers.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
And there's a documentary about her.
She's
awesome. She's really awesome. And she's like done some of the deepest diving. Actually, she's worked with
she's like 80.
I think she is. Yeah. So the idea is like she is up there in age when the movie takes place, but she is the first person to travel down to the very bottom of the Marianas Trench. Is that the one?
Yeah, something like
the deepest point in the
Trench,
world.
I think.
So they finally figure out like the suit that you would need and the amount of time the travel would take and when you would have to get out of a craft because your like suit would become the craft, like all that stuff. And she's literally done some of that work because they are, I do find it fascinating that I think we've never been to the bottom. Is that right? Like,
I think we've had like weird like small vessels maybe hit the bottom.
I
but
think at this point we have.
Like
Okay.
no like full vehicles.
Human hasn't.
Or maybe James Cameron might have
just
done
gonna
something
say-
James Cameron's gotten the
weirdly,
closest, I think.
Cameron,
'Cause
I think
he's-
that machine may have gone all the way down.
But it's like
So-
one machine maybe, and not for long, and like anything information we have of it's like very still limited, just because.
So, the original idea was basically like more of like a gripping, like gravity style drama where she's traveling down and then she gets unhooked. But I feel like what would be like a more fun movie would be a monster movie that is basically just alien underwater. So the idea is like
underwater.
it exists probably. Okay.
Kristen Stewart
Okay, we'll have to check that out.
and
So
Sphere.
and
I
Sphere.
guess, is
I'm
kind
sure
of-
there's like a lot of them. But the basic gist would be in the 40s, basically like Axis forces had figured out how to get how to build an underwater base at the deepest part of the ocean, and the U.S. government and Allied forces could never find it. And that's so the researchers stumble upon it, they find it, and they're sending this woman to the bottom, to the deepest part of the ocean, because they think they found this base. And she makes it down there and accidentally gets unhooked and loses communication, but she gets into the base, and then it's just alien. There's like a species down there, intelligent species that has, like
It's kind of like Bioshock, right, Kyle?
I'm
Similarly?
not too familiar. Seems like
I like it.
kind of.
I didn't think you were
I don't
going with
know
that
if that's
direction
the
because
full
this
story.
one is 7 miles below the ocean surface. Something has awakened.
yeah, pretty
and-
much that. yeah, that.
Right. Okay. But And Sphere is actually I was a kid when I like loved Sphere because like everything they start dreaming of starts happening.
Okay.
And Samuel L. Jackson's reading 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and
Yeah,
shit,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's like the sphere takes over you. It's like this perfect ball.
Okay.
It's not that great of a movie, but as a kid, I was like, "Yo, this is amazing." So, Bioshock. I also like that. I'll rate that. Bioshock meets
I mean, I
meets
think Bioshock does.
Caddyshack meets Biodome. I was thinking, but
I think it has some elements of Bioshock, but I'm not too familiar with it.
so Bioshock starts with your pilot, and you crash into the ocean, and then there's like an underground,
Like whole world in
Yeah.
the ocean, and then it gets weird.
like this
And
guy's in there. He's called like Big Daddy or something.
Okay, it's like a whole world. We could go that direction.
say
There's
that
like
is-
this. What's that conspiracy theory? I actually have a whole different pitch about this. There's like the Earth is not a sphere. It's a
Flat Earth.
not flat. There's like it's concave. So if you go up, this is like a
I
real
don't
thing.
even know if I heard
It's
this
called
one.
Inner Earth, I think.
Oh,
So
weird.
there's this other conspiracy that the world is not round. It's like
But it's not
inside
flat.
out. It's like a
Oh, that
Inverted?
like
Like what?
weird like tube thing that's like
yeah,
infinite. 'Cause
yeah,
it
yeah.
just,
There's
like,
two
goes
holes
in-
at the top and
like a-
bottom, so you could just go inside.
straw,
Inner Earth. And
basically,
if you keep
right?
sailing, you sail into it and go inside, and that's where all the Nazis went. And there's
there is, like,
a
an inner
fertile
thing.
like whole like aliens and everything going on under there.
Okay.
There's like a whole. That's a different pitch. And could be a comedy. But anyway, that's basically all I have. The ultimate idea is like it does just become Monster in the House. Like she's finding like old documents of research and stuff like that. That's why her main goal is obviously like get back into connection with the submarine that she left from. So she's trying to figure out how to get back in touch so she can be saved. She is finding these like, I don't know if I want it to be like Nazi, like I feel like that's just so overdone, but like, there's sort of strange research down there, and then it's like there's an alien. Or
Okay.
like there's a species
You're not thinking
that
crew though. You're thinking
yeah, no, the crew's long gone, I think, because of the species, and I think the species is just the only reason they haven't come up is probably because of the depth difference. The same reason we haven't gone down. So they developed down at the bottom with, all the pressure of the ocean and everything else. So they get the bends. If they go up, they implode, kind of the same way if we go down, and I think really she just got to fight her way out with like one alien kind of. And I'm thinking something again similar along the lines of maybe she finds eggs or something and she wants to get an egg back up for research, and she just has to
and then
kill
the
this.
turtle starts chasing her.
She has to kill this alien. That's pretty much it.
Okay.
And then get out.
I have to watch Underwater because I haven't. But yeah, I mean, I would say more like, well, it doesn't have a monster in it, but Moon is a great
Mhm.
minus Kevin Spacey. They should just have Christopher Plummer replace him on that too.
Oh, yeah,
That'd
be great. He replaces them in every movie.
yeah, I mean, it's just the voice. Why not? Why not just
Yeah.
do it? Sunshine, Moon.
Yep.
There's a new one, Stowaway.
Yeah, and it's
But it's underwater,
it's
of
one of
course.
those. There's a set. There's like a base that's a set piece. Again, alien or whatever.
Yeah, I'm trying to think like what is the conflict?
Small corridors, creepy.
Yeah, pretty
lighting.
much that. Maybe it would be better if there was a crew that went and then you're just doing alien underwater. Like
It,
fine, whatever. These
it's
kids,
easier. Like
You have
it's
more, like,
easier,
yeah,
but
yeah.
then you're also going. You're gonna hit those cliche marks, which you're gonna have to.
Mhm.
And but if you're just going one person, then like Moon did a great job making it more of a mind
Yeah,
fuck, and you being
or like
oh,
Gravity, even
okay.
in a
Yeah.
sense.
Gravity,
Yeah.
like that would be.
and she could have
interesting.
communication for a good amount of time is possible.
I would say, yeah, a little bit more of like that Moon mind fuck is nice because it really makes you like.
You're
question
by
it.
yourself, and then that heightens the like, is this like monster real, or like how much? I feel like
Yeah.
I like that vibe too. It's like, yeah, the psychology of like being alone in a weird
Yeah,
spot too,
exactly.
of like, because
Okay.
that allows for like jump scares, I think too. Because
I
you're
think
like,
so.
the audience gets in, and you're like, is it the monster? And you're like, no, it's just this creaky fucking door, as like a classic example. But
And that happens in Sphere too, which I think is Stephen King. Simpsons did it.
South Park
mean,
did it.
This is a very stupid thing and way to think, but like, I didn't see A Quiet Place yet. I know I'm gonna like it. But we could potentially do the setup where it's not exactly our world right now, and she's going down. There could be more of a reason, like I'm not saying like Water World or something, but like could be another reason she's going down, and kind of set up the world a little more, but for the potential of like a franchise. You know, like she gets out, she kills the one alien, but or the one, what, it's not an alien,
Right.
technically, it's like a fish person. I'm kind of seeing like if Shape of Water guy was like a was more scary. It's literally, I'm just envisioning like Alien. But you know, the sequel could be like lots of them, you know.
Oh, right.
So anyway, that's the whole thing. And my last pitch is, I'm gonna do like, I think I have a decent amount on this one, so maybe I'll just go like broad stroke. I'm gonna do the Officiant.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't want to dive too deep though.
Yeah.
Um,
We have like a whole. I don't even have to write that on here actually because we have a whole document on it. But
yeah. Okay. My last pitch is a multicam comedy called The Officiant. The idea would be like a 30-minute comedy show, sort of like, I'm gonna say Dave because I just started watching that yesterday, you know, but sort of like a raunchy or like more edgy version of New Girl, The Mick, It's Always Sunny. The basic gist is there's a woman who is completely spiraling out of control at the beginning. She's like just left her husband, lost her house, can't keep a job, and I'll try to make this as brief as possible, but basically she stumbles into or sort of cons her way into a job as a wedding officiant at a sort of failing wedding venue. So
what
that's,
do you mean cons? Like, what do you mean? Like,
So-
why is this a con? Why did she?
she's the most under what's the word I'm looking for? The most underqualified person to be a wedding officiant. She should not be a wedding officiant, and she doesn't have any credentials or anything. The first one in the pilot episode, like, she does marry two people, but she doesn't have.
So she's like wedding crashing, and they're like, "You're the officiant." She's like, "Yeah, sure."
Well,
like,
the way into that for me was she is at she ends up at the place is called Mallard Island. I'm not going to actually use that name, but like she's at one of those like wedding roadshow things, you know. I haven't figured all this out basically,
Okay.
but like getting food or like or she has something else to do there, and she meets a guy who's an officiant who basically like runs to the bathroom, and this couple comes up to her, and she gets in like an accidental conversation. They're like, well, our other officiant wanted $500, and she was like, $500, you know. She's like, I mean, I'd do it for $3, and they're like, okay, great. You know, so one of those, like, it's not even that big of a plot line, but ultimately, so that's the main set piece, is Mallard Island, and the world is sort of wedding venue, and the bigger picture, the show is sort of I don't want to get like too esoteric because I don't have that much, but the idea is like it's sort of a comment on the way people think about marriage, and a sort of a comment on, I don't think the whole show is a comment on the wedding industry, but it's set in the wedding industry, and like over the last 10 years it's like crazy to be in a wedding anymore. You know, like, costs you so much fucking money, and people are all these new traditions and stuff that aren't really traditions, but like the bachelorette weekend and all this stuff, you know, like the idea that the wedding industry is kind of like picking pockets and stuff like that. I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's not.
It's very heavily. I wasn't expecting that. It's very heavily in the wedding industry. I was
Yeah.
thinking more, she's an officiant to make extra money. You learn some things, but her life is a bigger part of the show, and there was something else about her life that I was gonna start unraveling. That
Yeah, I think.
is
Well,
a
I
big
haven't kind of
arc.
got there, but that's the wedding industry. I would say is the setting. You know, like, it always is set at Mallard Island, the way that Friends is always set in the.
Yeah,
You know,
where
'cause
like
it's-
party down,
Right,
where it's
right.
like you're
It's a
always at
mul-
like
yeah.
a little party thing, so it doesn't. Is it always Mallard Island?
I think so. Yeah, so that
Well,
you
yeah, I
have the
guess
same
it's
cast
like-
of
you're right.
characters. You have the
Right.
DJ. The DJ is this like hypersexual like Russian lady who's like, her fetishes are like really weird looking people, and so she's always like trying to find somebody, and she's always trying to set the main character up. So there's this main cast of characters that I have. I don't think I don't want to get too deep into it, right now for the pitch, but I would say the closest, just because I've been watching it, like New Girl is just, I mean, it's in the
I would say
title.
more Superstore than New Girl.
I haven't seen Superstore.
Superstore would be more like, because every time someone watches Superstore, they'll go, exactly, that's what happens at Walmart. That's what happens when I worked at Walmart. That's what I know happens at Walmart.
Yeah.
And that's what you kind of want to say. So really, you want to like spread out those things though.
Yes.
Because you want to have like, that guy at the wedding. I've seen that guy.
Right.
You want a lot of that.
And I don't think so. Originally, the idea was every single episode is a new couple and then she solves sort of like the C story is she solves their problems. But I don't think that's the real structure. I do think the movie is gonna be a lot more about her life the show. I honestly, the bigger theme of it is probably like balance, like finding balance. And I've officiated like 5 weddings now, and it's just funny to me, like I don't feel qualified to do it other than like, who cares? You know what I mean? Like I got the certificate online and it's like whatever. But it's just interesting that like one of the things I like to talk about is like the wedding is not a marriage. They're almost like unrelated. And like, so this main character, her name is Shelley. She kind of like hates that the way that our society functions in terms of relationships. I saw this a lot when I was going through college. Like you have people look at their life like sort of like on this timeline ruler, and then there's these milestones that are just pretty typical that everybody hits, which is like meet somebody that you're like compatible with, and then like along the line it's like maybe move in together, or then like get engaged, do all the things you do when you're engaged, which is like so much to do. Then you have the wedding, and then there's like children, and then there's like retirement and all that stuff, and she fucking hates that, and she realizes that she fell into the trap, so she blows it up at the start of the show. And by the end of the show, however many seasons it runs, it's sort of she comes to a place of like coming to terms with the fact that like some of that stuff just makes sense because you're gonna die, and like there are things that you want to do in between there, and you don't have to just completely go off the grid and be a terrible human.
So does it start with her getting left at the altar, or her leaving someone at the altar?
It starts with her leaving her husband.
Okay.
Yeah, so it starts with her leaving her husband and getting her boat taken away. So she lives in her husband's boat. And basically the first scene is the love interest through the whole series takes her boat away because she loses it in like a gambling thing. And she doesn't have money to pay it back. So the first episode is basically like, get my boat back. That's the whole thing. It's how she gets to Mallard Island. And I have more, but that's like the general thing. I don't know, we can play with it a little more, but I think maybe if I come with like a show Bible or some more like fleshed out characters, we can see, how this plays.
Probably relatability wise, and like it feels like a real person compared to a lot of your other ideas. I'm like, oh, okay, I know who this person is.
I actually have an actress in mind. Like I'm writing it toward like, I don't know if I'm saying her name right, but Aaliyah Shawkat, Aaliyah. I don't know how to say.
I don't know how to say her name either.
I'm writing it toward her, but there's an actress that I saw in like Upright Citizens Brigade, like YouTube. This girl she just does Twitter right now, and I think she's funny as hell. I think her name's Hannah Solo or something. Again, I'm like terrible with names. But I'm gonna keep writing it toward her, and eventually, if we get a pilot written, I'd love to just like pitch it to her. Like, hey, is this something you think would be fun? Maybe we could shoot even like a test or something, just to
probably shoot it at Mallard.
I was thinking that. So in the other idea, so again, over the series, the series arc is Mallard Island. Eventually she starts giving a shit about what she does. Eventually she becomes sort of a partner / owner in Mallard Island and turns it around. So it goes, you see Mallard Island go from like this dinky place that people, it's like the cheap place to get married. And the one gimmick is I'm already doing like way too much, aren't I, in this pitch?
No. I think it got better as you started making the relatability of the character.
Well, I'm trying to think in terms of if you're making a multicam comedy, again, like I'm going to keep saying New Girl because I'm watching it, but they have like they have the bar,
Mhm.
they have the apartment. Like those are really the main sets that they just go back, and they're built in a warehouse and they just shoot it there. And like, so for this, I want it to be the bridal suite, but the joke is that nobody uses the bridal suite because a bride shot herself in the suite. That's not funny, but
Yeah, it's great.
but they're like, nobody will actually like rent it out. So that's where they all congregate and like either smoke weed or just like, before, it's just where they hang out. And then there's like the kitchen of the place where like you'd see the caterers and the waiters and like, some of the other regular characters. But other than that, it's like, those are probably like the main two set pieces. And then you see some of the interior of the thing, but you could kind of bottle the episodes in those locations and shoot, most of it on those set pieces. That's what I'm trying to go for. But anyway, that's
I would watch Superstore.
Okay, I'll
I
check
think
it
that's
out.
a great one to compare.
I'll check it out. That's mine. My 3.
That's mine.